episode of CloudFocus Weekly-ish for the first week of June 2018. This episode is titled Summer 18. CloudFocus Weekly is brought to you by Clone This User. Duplicates you'll love. Clone an existing Salesforce user with a click of a button by the desktop or in Salesforce One Mobile, available free in the App Exchange, or go to clonethisuser.com. I'm your host, Jason Atwood. It's been a long while since I rock and rolled. And joining me, co-host of the show, let me reintroduce him, Salesforce MVP, overly certified, man of the hour, concert goer, wearing a Denver hat, Justin Elstein. Justin, how you doing?
I like your subtle name change. You're coming around to CloudFocus whenever.
Oh, CloudFocus Weekly-ish.
Weekly-ish?
I looked at the last one we did. It was an entire month that went by without.
So May, there were 0 CloudFocus Weeklies in any week of May.
0 weeks of May had a CloudFocus Weekly in them.
Doesn't mean we weren't doing them. Just means we didn't record them.
What?
We didn't record them.
Some people say that there are many episodes that are just non-recorded episodes. Like when you and I just go out to the landing and sit and talk about Salesforce crap. That's kind of an episode.
Or when we're just going back and forth on Slack. It's like, sometimes it's just like, oh, look, it's an episode of CloudFocus Weekly happening in text on Slack.
Slack edition. This episode is sponsored by Slack
edition.
Yeah, not sponsored by Slack. All right, so we have some catching up to do. Because we are behind, but we're going to cover a couple of the blogs. There's a couple of special things. Then we'll try to do a makeup session next week. And then we do have for the summer, our summer series. So today we're going to I'll talk a little bit about the summer series and what we need from you, the listener. I'll talk about the Facebook data breach. It's been a while, but it's also kind of fun. We'll talk about Compliance Locker, the website relaunch, and then we'll get finally to Summer 18. It is out. It's in many, many orgs. Not in all, because I was in the client org today. They are getting it tomorrow.
It's in our org.
It is in our org.
It's all that matters.
We are one of many. And then we'll do that. So let's start with, and we'll cover WWDC next week.
Next, could we just say next podcast?
Next podcast.
Next podcast, when it's no longer relevant, we'll cover WWDC.
I'll talk about WWDC all day. I'm so excited about half the stuff. I might even have a version of it on one of my devices by that point. All right. Developers. First of all, so last year, for those new listeners, and for those who just downloaded for the first time, thanks for downloading. You don't have to listen to the rest of this. We do a series in the summer called the GTD Summer Series, architected by you, put together by me. And this year, we're going to do 3 or 4 new podcasts about GTD. We are going to cover things that we didn't cover last year. But one thing I thought would be fun that we have to kind of get started on is I think it would be fun to get questions.
Yeah, questions would be great.
From the audience. So
crowd participation.
Crowdsourcing
our CloudFocus Weekly-ish podcast.
Yes. So over the summer, birds in the house. Bird's going to start talking. So over the summer, we're going to do this sometime in July, but I'd like to get the questions in the next couple weeks so we can start organizing. So we're going to do a Q&A episode, a GTD, getting things done, Q&A episode, and we're going to look both internally to Arkus for questions. We are also going to look externally. So here's some places you can get them to us. You can send us emails.
Yeah.
Is there a podcast app?
No, just tweet us.
Just tweet at us. Okay, direct message, tweet at us. Success community groups,
sure.
Fine. Power of Us Hub, fine.
Yeah.
There are both CloudFocus Weekly groups in there, so you can post in there. I also maintain a GTD group in the Success Trailblazer Society of Funness, whatever they call it now.
Wow, if they could only see the eye rolling through whatever they're listening to right now. Whatever you are listening to right now.
Roll your eyes.
Just imagine the entirety of both eyes rolling all the way around.
Lightning Einstein success trailblazing thing.
It's a Trailblazer Einstein thing. You won't get it.
Lightning.
You're more of a Cody guy.
Such a Cody. Is that an insult?
I don't know.
You're such a Cody.
You're such a goatee.
You're such a server bear. Anyway, so we're looking for things. So we know, things you'd like to know about GTD, anything, any type of question that's GTD related. We'll try to get as many questions and we'll answer them and talk about them.
For those noobs that are listening for the first time ever.
Right. So
what is that thing, that acronym?
We'll probably cover that in the first episode because we kind of do a little recap.
Well, how are they supposed to ask us questions if you don't tell them what it is?
What do you mean? What is GTD?
Yeah, just at least acronym.
Get Anything Done, a productivity methodology written by David Allen, whatever. But you go learn what GTD is. If that's what your question is, what is GTD? We might answer that. I don't think that'll be the question. This is for people who maybe are just starting off or maybe been doing it for a long time. Questions you might have. So maybe about tools, maybe about methodologies, maybe about using stuff that I think some of the biggest gaps in his things is that there's this gap between this theory and practice. Theory and practice, big gap. Because in here is where the rubber hits the road, and this is like, well, what do I use, and where do I write down, and how do I do this and this and this and this? So we can get those very specific things. All right.
If anyone works at Arkus, they can feel free to also...
Yes, well, they have a Slack channel they can put things in. I will solicit questions there as well.
Good idea.
All right.
Just to, get prime the pump a little bit.
I will, and I will do so in many different other locations. I will tweet and stuff like that. So, next up... Facebook data breach.
I'm ignorant. What happened?
Maybe not a breach. Maybe so I think this really just hits in the face of two things are happening. There's a new regulation that's sort of sweeping the land. You're getting probably 300 to 400 emails a minute saying we have new policy updates.
I've done the trail.
Yes,
I have.
I know. So did I, and I remember nothing from the trail. I remember just like, it's a European legislation that I'm gonna really dumb it down from what I remember, is about your visibility to what other companies have of your data and your access to it and your ability to delete it.
Well, it's who owns it, really.
Well, it's saying that you, the person, own the data, and you are allowed to say, I want you to tell me what you have. I want to say that you cannot have it anymore. And you have to be more open about it. Way ahead of sort of where the United States is in terms of data. But of course, any company that's dealing with international entities, which is a lot of them, they have to deal with this. And it kind of didn't fall. I mean, it was already in the works, but what was interesting was it came about after a massive set of stories about Facebook, user data being used by third-party analytic firms to with machine learning and AI, which is really kind of interesting, to manipulate things. And so they sold data and gave data, and now there's like a lot of these cloud computing companies are not only moving to saying, hey, here's how you can get your data off of us, Apple, Google, Facebook, obviously, there's ways to go in and say, basically, show me everything you have on me, and then if I want to be deleted, I can be deleted. But I think it sparked off sort of, what we've been talking about for years, which is they know way more about you than you think they do, and privacy isn't privacy. It's one of the things that actually came out in WWDC, the Worldwide Developer Corporation conference for Apple, was that they're going to even take it another step, and they're going to build into their browser ways of making your browser activity look even more
fingerprint
less, right? Because it's not just the cooking. Cookies we can fight, right? We can delete them. We can only select them from, but it's like they start to watch how you use, and so it's like even if your browser's in cookie, they can still see your computer and your makeup, and they still know it's you.
The scariest part of this is when you start to realize that, my wife and I have moved into a new apartment.
I've heard this
almost a year ago, and about that September of last year. Yeah, that's almost.
Your years are different than my years, but mine are 12 months. Yours are kind of like 8-9 months.
I said almost.
Okay,
didn't I? Whatever.
If it was August, almost might be
anyway. So she was looking at a lot of home furnishings.
Yes.
On our Wi-Fi.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, the things that she was looking at were just sort of showing up all over web pages that I was looking at.
Different computers.
Different computers, different devices. But like in my Instagram feed or on any website I go to, there'd be like some couch that she was looking at. And I'd be like, that is weird. Whoa. How'd that happen?
Yeah. Well, at least you know what couch she's looking at.
Well, yeah, that's the good part.
Hon? Were you looking at
You're looking at this couch?
I don't like it.
This blue couch? What's up with this blue couch?
I remember doing this podcast years ago talking about data, and we just said, listen, this is all, everybody has all the data. And at that point, it's like, it's kind of the advantage. It's what you do by surfing, and it's what you're giving up. You're giving up a lot of your privacy. And I think we both went like, What I think is coming out now is that this data is being used not just to sell things. Selling you a couch and selling your wife the same couch or whatever, having you argue over Instagram on which couch you like, fine. That's the least of it. But I think they're looking back now to two political events that have happened and in our recent history, and showing how they're using that user data to pump stories, some real, some not real, at individuals to get them to behave a certain way.
Yeah, and that's the hack.
And using artificial intelligence, meaning setting it up, set it and forget it, to say, instead of saying target these types of users, it's like learn from their behavior, learn from what they're doing, and then throw these ads at them, because we're trying to move the needle, and this corporation was trying to do that, move the needle of this political issue.
Right. If you think about, like, really people, I think their behavior, just my own, just anecdotally, people read headlines.
Yes.
And they either like them or don't. And then they either click on them because they like them, or they just skip right past them. So that's a thing you can learn.
Yep.
You can also learn from the sentiment analysis of whatever they're commenting on.
Oh.
Pro or for or against any particular topic, or on one side of an issue or not, and how they're fighting or not. And there's a lot of that on Facebook, a lot of like political fighting. I haven't gone on Facebook in months. I don't even know why I have the account anymore.
I'm this close. I've been just spending the last couple months trying to figure out, is there any ramifications for me deleting my account? But other than that, I think I'm going that way. I would like to say, so the danger is that it's using, again, it's one thing to push you to buy another pair of your Adidas that you're obsessed with.
That happens all the time.
Yeah. But it's another thing to move a political, to push not correct news and things that are not true, to sway people to vote a certain way. And let's not talk about let's not get into politics, but let's talk Brexit, right? Which is one of the examples that they're using. So let's take away from the American crap show.
Sorry for the UK listeners.
Yeah. But they're now pointing back to, you saw the stories in the news after the day after Brexit where people were like, I don't even know what Brexit is, but you voted yes for it, right? Yeah, I did, because something. But that's where this is dangerous, is because there's already an ill-formed society with an attention span of a fly, who's then being fed information which is not even true, but being fed
via headline.
And
because people don't read,
and then there's no reading,
right.
And there's no sourcing anymore, because there is no source. I mean, how often do you even look at the source of an? You and I read an article from the New York Times the other day.
Right.
Why we were reading an article together? That's for other people to find out.
Whatever. We'll talk about that on another podcast.
Why is that not appropriate? And I remember thinking, as you're reading it, it was really well written, and B, it's New York Times, right? And it kind of made me feel a little warm and fuzzy that it's from a source that I semi-trust. I mean, I don't fully trust them, but anyway, so it's I don't think this is the end of it at all. I think this is barely the beginning of it. But like anything, the reaction to everybody redoing their policies, and every website you go on says, here's what you do with here's what you do with your cookies, it becomes too much anyway. People didn't read the agreement the 500-page agreement that you click when you install iTunes.
Nope.
Because it's not real.
Because then you can't use it.
And no one reads the policy things anyway, because how much time in my life, if I were to read every privacy policy on every website I visit, I mean, that's books. I could just sit around and read.
Well, I always laughed at those because it's like, you either agree or you can't use it. It's like, but I want to use it. Well, then you have to agree.
It's a one-way street.
There's no recourse. You can't go back and be like, I don't like this sentence.
No.
Be like, okay, fine, don't use it.
There's no.
So that's it.
Right. We're going to track all your stuff.
Yeah.
And we're going to sell it to somebody else. Next up, speaking of selling things,
let's talk about not selling things.
We have a retirement here at Arkus. Our first retirement.
Shed a tear.
So, for those of you who are in Arkus fans, we have 3 different free App Exchange products: Columnist User, the Permissioner, and Compliance Locker. Compliance Locker came about years ago, maybe 7 years ago, when Chatter first came out, and there was no ability to sort of archive or figure out how to get to Chatter if it got deleted, and to show it was deleted and who deleted it, et cetera, et cetera. So we built Compliance Locker, which was a free App Exchange app that allowed you to log compliance message or Chatter messages in a custom object with some triggers.
Yep.
Blah, blah, blah. It's pretty basic, actually, what it did. We added in some nice features over the years, all with the game and all with the idea that someday good old
maybe
Salesforce in summer 22 was going to, build in this feature, because it seemed like this huge gap that you can't sort of have any audit around Chatter,
particularly because it's just considered communication.
Deleting is deleting,
and it's considered communication internally and externally.
Right. It's got all sorts of issues with it. So we built this thing, and we thought Salesforce, a couple years, maybe 5, would build some other thing, or someone else would step in the market.
And it helped for quite a while with adoption of Chatter within industries that were highly regulated and could not use communication standards that were not audited and trackable by anybody at any time, and retention periods and all sorts of funsy things that were built into this application. Yeah. But way back in like 2011, I think we built it.
But here's the thing. Chatter has become bigger and more complex and more features to it. And as a company producing a free product, we actually watched the amount of installs go way down, so it wasn't like a lot of people were installing it new. And we just said, you know what, this is enough. This thing it's more of a hassle than it's worth. We can't put the time and energy to keep it up to date. Salesforce is not keeping up their end of the bargain, our feeling. So we're going to...
Oh, they never committed to anything.
They did. Actually, they did.
Yeah, but not publicly.
No, it was in the notes. It was literally in the release notes at one point.
Well, does Shield do this sort of for people?
It's usage behavior. You can see what they're doing, but it's not Chatter.
Anyway.
So we retired it.
We retired it and put it on Microsoft GitHub.
Oh.
Well, I threw that one right at you.
I know.
It wasn't in the agenda, and I just threw it at you.
So now on Microsoft GitHub... Sponsored by Windows.
I just threw that one at you. We're ready for it.
I was ready. I'm always ready. So anyway, we open sourced it, threw it on GitHub.
Yes.
And it is now there for free for anybody to use. You can take it. And there's a blog post on blog.arkusinc.com where you can find out what you need to do. And
a quick shout to Andrew Fawcett, who wrote GitHub SF Deploy, which we leveraged so that you can deploy it straight from, there's a deploy link straight from GitHub. You can deploy it into a dev org or a sandbox.
Yes.
I don't actually think it'll even work, but if you could even get it to work, I do not recommend installing this directly into a production org from here, as it is unmanaged and it has not been touched in a very long time. Right. So you'll have unmanaged code that will prevent you from doing certain things in the future, I imagine.
Enjoy that.
So the entire source is here, all the classes, all the objects, all the pages, all of our static resources, tabs, triggers, etc. They're all there for you. Developers enjoy. You can look through the code and see how bad it was written 8 years ago or 7 years ago, or how bad it looks now looking back 7 years, because we really hadn't added much to it or even touched it very much.
We had a couple releases, but eventually it was like, And did some neat things. We had one time we built an ability to go back and like archive old chatter messages because it was kind of it was a forward thinking. So we did a backward version. Had some nice emailing options.
There was like a post install script that you could run that would just go grab everything that's ever been done.
All the chatter.
Yeah, and at this point, actually, it's kind of funny is if you set your attention period to like the 7 years, right, which is kind of like where the financial services world was. 7 years. 7 years we have to keep this stuff, then we can get rid of it. There might be some archive jobs running like right about now.
Just running. Warning, if you're a heavy chatter user, one of the issues is that it does produce a lot of records.
Yes.
And so eventually...
It will eat up your data storage.
And it will slow it down. We actually found
Well, we know that.
Well,
commenting...
No, that compliance locker slowed orgs down in chatter posting because it had to look up things. So we actually were going to re-architect it, but then said, no, forget it. So
we almost got there. We had like a almost completely rewritten version, and then we said, nah.
No. Compliance locker, goodbye. Off to Boca. All right. Speaking of things that got retired,
someone run with it. Someone take it and run with it.
Yeah,
it's open source. Go do
or not
fun.
Speaking of open source, we actually run our website on an open source platform.
We do.
Not Salesforce.
Which one?
Plone, which is a Python-based CMS, content management system.
Huh?
And we did in the last 6 months, we did a redesign, just launched it a couple weeks ago, of the website, but we also upgraded to the newest version of Plone.
Looking snazzy.
And so our new website is up. So if you go to blog.arkusinc.com, couple things you'll find out. I think we've gone the way, I'm sure like within 6 months, it's going to be the old way.
We finally caught up and now we're going to be behind again.
Someone else is going to do this. But you went to the sort of everything's in one big scroll. It's much more icon-y. It's much more, sort of simplified. No, we don't want text.
No one reads. I'm reading it and I'm reading the Who Are We?
It's like,
and it has our pictures here and our titles, which are not correct.
They are correct. We have our titles and we have our functional titles.
Well, this is not what my title is.
Well, it is what your title is. In like paperwork, it is. Functionally, it's not.
On LinkedIn, I'm something different. I think.
Well, you could put anything you want on LinkedIn. It doesn't make it true.
Chief chef.
Anyway, so take a look. Let us know. I mean, if you're a blog person, we've simplified the blog pages and we did some things that we were long wanting to do. We're doing much more graphics and pictures, custom icons, and we show you when the thing was posted.
Yes, people love that. People will now know when the blog posts are actually posted and by whom.
Yes. So like this blog post was posted on 4/30/2018.
5:30?
4:30.
4:30. Oh, this one.
Yeah,
Got
this
it.
is the long one.
Anyway,
there's a
cool
cool article
really
written by Catherine, who did the design, about like why. So she, the tools she used, she used a new Adobe tool, which is kind of cool. It's called Adobe XD. So you can read about that, how she did it, and the clone and the funness of it all. The big thing you'll find is it's much more simplified, and the blog and the podcast are kind of there's only 4 pages: a homepage, blog, and a podcast. But everything got migrated, so everything's there, going back 1,000 years. That's the thing.
1,000.
I think the only thing what we're gonna do is we might split out the blog and the podcast since they are separate.
They are split out.
No, the podcast still show up in the blog. Don't have them
show up in the blog. Yes. Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, I think we might do that. And the podcast has its own pages now and has like the recent throws out some stuff. So it's nice and more places to subscribe. I think we're now in Google Play. As well. So I think a nice redesign.
Do you know what we're really good at that I find that a lot of websites are not good at?
What's that?
Updating our copyright at the bottom to include the current year.
That's because it's automatic.
It's great. Because
it's automatic.
You go to a lot of people's websites and they're still on 2017 still, and it's June.
It's an include for Plone that just goes year.
Oh, that's excellent.
That's what it is.
By the way, there's a nice careers page on there.
Oh yeah, on the bottom there's all sorts of stuff.
With a couple of job descriptions up there.
Okay.
Go check them out.
All right. Very good. Next up and last topic before we launch into our thing is summer. Summertime.
Summertime.
You wrote a blog post since...
I did. My not rapid reaction.
Summer 18 release notes just a reaction.
Just a reaction.
Just reaction. And you published it on 5/30/2018.
That's what the blog thing says, so I guess that's true.
Well, Catherine's now running the blog, so now we don't even know when things are published because I'm not doing it anymore.
Me neither.
So there's a good thing.
That's nice. The release that Salesforce Classic got left behind.
This is it. We're going to look back to Summer 18.
I'm calling it. Summer 18.
You're calling it?
I'm calling it. Summer 18, the release that Classic got left behind.
Okay. Tell me why.
Because they're not going to be building any new features whatsoever for Classic. And if they happen to work, great. I don't think they care.
So let's talk about a couple things that are out there. Maybe some good, some...
Yeah, sure.
Pick one.
Pick one? Can I pick one that's not in the post?
Sure.
I didn't put one in the post specifically because I thought it deserved its own post entirely. So there's a feature coming or out in some instances called Perform Mass Quick Actions on More Objects.
Oh, yes.
This is huge. So from a list view, you can build a quick action that works on the list on a number of standard objects, which there were already a few that this worked on. I think leads and cases it already worked on as of spring. But now you're going to have it on cases, leads, accounts, campaigns, contacts, opportunities, work orders, and all custom objects in Lightning Experience. Okay. Now, this is pretty big. It'll work on up to 100 records at a time. Mm-hmm. So you can have a list and you can select the first 100, or you can have a list that only includes like 35. And then you can have an action to either update all of the things that you've selected, or you can do a create action of a child record.
That's
super hot. Think about just having a list. I always go to attendance in terms of use cases for myself, because we do a lot of work with nonprofits, and attendance in one way, shape, or form, whether it be to a classroom or to some service that is being provided, attendance is a thing. People are either signed up for and have to show up. And then you have to track whether they did or didn't. So you have to create an attendance record for a series of people in a list. Wow, we have built so many custom attendance trackers in our days. But this to me seems like, let's try this first. Let's see if we can get a list and then just check all the people, click a button that says mark attended. And it'll just create a little attendance record under the covers that's related to that record and mark them attended. And you can do the same for like mark absent. Just have 2 buttons. And to me, that is pretty fancy. I like it. Something that's been like needed for a while. Like let me go to this list of records and just do mass updates or mass creation of records that are related to these ones. That is enormous. I mean, the example in the release notes is like, add the same case comment to 7 cases, which is absurd, but I think it's fantastic to be able to. It's a game changer. It's a game changer, Lightning.
It is a game changer. Lightning is a game changer. I've heard this. Saw a video about 2 years ago. I actually use a feature. This is not a. I don't think it's a Summer 18. Went to try a feature the other day. A client who remained nameless wanted to see a bunch of fields that were on the account level on the opportunity. So what they do? They created cross-object work formulas.
Right.
So we're talking 50 fields here.
Yeah, all you need is an update action.
That wasn't the use case. But these fields need to be moved to being records. Like they need to be related records because they're not, it's a bad data model. And I was like, but if I move them from being fields to related records, I can't, the cross-object, formula field's not going to work anymore, so they won't be able to see it on the opportunity. Wait, but you can in Lightning, because you go to the Lightning page, you drop a related list, and you say, use a related list from the account.
That's right.
Bam.
You can grab grandchildren records and create a related list on the
a nice feature.
Single related list. Also, I've seen some while we're like diving into Lightning now, because that was the theme of this summer. It was Lightning heavy. Like, here it comes, people. And it's coming.
if you weren't being totally annoyed by every stupid little marketing pop-up that
Classic's
Salesforce is
done.
putting in.
Forget it. Just learn Lightning if you're learning Salesforce right now.
Still
Forget it.
Way too many missing features to be saying it's done, but okay.
It's done. But one of the things I think is really intriguing is, and I saw someone do this in a blog post, they posted what they did. You can create like update actions, and you can take a page layout that maybe has like 150 fields on it.
Yep.
And instead of having just a huge detail screen of 150 fields, you just break them out into their own little update actions, and you can put them under subtabs for, as opposed to sections. You just have the subtabs, and you can update really any of the fields because they're just in update actions sitting under tabs, which is a really different. Like you can design the application really any which way you want at this point.
Lightning is, and I think we started saying this when we saw Lightning come out and saw some of what it can do. In a lot of ways, it's giving us the freedom to do things. We were playing around the other day, and one of the things was 3 columns. I was like, oh, 3 columns. That's a fun thing. But wow. I mean, now designing things in it's more of UI designing because you're saying, well, how is this data going to work? You have so many more options and so many things to do. I don't think Salesforce has done a good job of documented best practices. Hopefully they'll do better at it, but it's going to become the difference of, you used to be able to just do something bad by throwing everything in, one big section. That would be bad. Okay, or maybe put every field on the left-hand side, like 100 fields. Okay, that was bad. But now you can bury things. You can make things look like they're in different places than they are. I mean, you can really build both a really great UI. You can also build a very confusing UI. That example I gave of a related list to something that's not on the record that it's from, like, that person could get very confused by that.
Yes.
And I create, what is this? Where is this data?
You have to label it really well. Yeah. And it used to be where we would talk about like building apps in Salesforce. We actually enjoyed the confines. Now, sometimes you get really angry and you throw something against the wall. Like, come on, I can't do this, really?
Right.
And that would be frustrating. But most of the time, especially as acting as consultants, it was nice to be able to say, actually, you have 2 columns.
Right.
And stuff can go on the left and stuff can go on the right. And I can, within a section, I can change the tabs. Right. If you want to, when you click the tab button, it can go down or it can go like across to the right, back to the left, to the right, back to the left, etc. Those are your options.
That's one of the things that Lightning does not do
Lightning
very well.
Does not pick up. This is a bugaboo of mine. It doesn't pick up in actions, which is how they want you to do things.
Right.
Pick lists. It tabs right past them.
Yeah, that's terrible.
It's awful.
Another little. I'd love to write a blog post, but I'll be thrown out as a
lightning gappy
quibbles with lightning or something. Another one, the good old date field. In Classic, you see a date field. There's a little thing next to it. You click on it. It populates the date. Today's
now you
date.
got 2 clicks to get there.
More than 2.
You got to click into the date field, then you got to go down to the thing where it says today. And
you have to go, I think you click in the date field, then you have to click the popper on the side. I don't think it automatically clicks the popper.
Yeah, anyway, it does. The popper pops, and then on the button, it just so happens that the popper is not good at deciding if it should go up or down.
Yeah.
And sometimes it goes down, and it's like, wait, now you're off my screen. Now I got to scroll a little bit.
And I'll tell you, we've been doing a lot of Lightning component stuff. There's some really interesting stuff on the Lightning. I posted that video the other day. It's like, again, where the low code, was it no code, low code, pro code, what's the middle one? Full code, pro code?
Pro code, low code, no code?
Yeah, but I thought there's a fourth.
I don't know.
Anyway, that spectrum is going to change because I think a lot of admins are going to start to get into building Lightning components.
Me
Whereas
too.
admins got a little bit into building, Visualforce, but eventually you could only go so far with Visualforce before you had to go back to a controller, and that's when you're kind of like,
You still need to have you still need to write controllers, but they're JavaScript.
Yeah,
and they're simpler.
They're simpler, and there's a lot of built-in stuff. So I'm really fascinated in how components are going to change the way. Again, want to build UI? You want your own fresh UI? You want to put anything anywhere? You got it.
You can build forms
and
pretty easy now.
Pretty quickly.
Quick.
All right, so that was lightning.
There were a couple things I'll go back to my reaction
Right.
real quick. So I was excited about being able to use recognition badges inside of communities, templated communities. So the
cool.
the lightning communities, which means that's like the entree to those things eventually coming to actual lightning
I
experience.
feel like they should come to lightning before they go to
I
communities.
know they kind of tested in communities sometimes, some of these components. And then you just touched on it, but the component library itself, which is really just taking all this fragmented documentation, putting it into one place so that it's really easy to consume and utilize. And then there is a way to have an org-specific component library that if you're in your org and you go to the component library URL, you can pop in a couple parameters into the URL, and it'll show you your custom components that are in your org in their documentation format, which is actually a very nice self-documented feature.
Even the search, I just was looking at a client who built not by me, but by someone else, had built a custom search thing for filtering and searching basically on contacts. I was looking at this going, wait, but with new search and lightning and with the filters on the side, I was like, let me just go try to reproduce this natively. So I went in, at the top, you can now set just contacts. Great. Type in Bob. And then when you get back search results, you're just getting back contacts. Great. You get back columns. You can sort it into columns out of the box. Awesome. And then on the side, I went into the search layout. I put a bunch of fields that they had as filter fields. And I was like, oh, and there's filtering right on the side, basically for free. Like, here's a filtered search page. Now, you do have to start at the search at the top, but I was like, wow, look at that. Like, that filtered search is really good, and I think that's going to help a lot of people get through a lot of data with those sides, with the side filtering search now in search. Say search again. Search. All right. Well, we're a little bit in here. Oh, 37 minutes. Look at that. See, we're so chatty. So why don't we go on and make our picks of the week? Are you going to pick something you've picked 17 times?
I'm going to pick it in a negative fashion.
What? You're gonna anti-pick?
I'm gonna anti-pick something I've picked before.
You're gonna unpick it?
And I'm gonna because they changed it.
Listen, there's a lot of things you can do, but you can't unpick your nose.
I'm gonna pick it, and then I'm gonna say why I used to like it, and now they're annoying me.
This section of CloudFocus Weekly is called "What Annoys Justin."
Here we go.
Dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. All right.
What annoys you?
ESPN's annoying me at the moment.
You're on the watch list.
ESPN. You're on the watch list. That's right. So ESPN, up until about a month and a half ago, I thought was doing a really nice job with their digital strategy, if you will. They have a really nice app on the iPhone. They have a really nice app on the iPad. They have a really nice app on the Apple TV. See where I'm going here.
All the Apple.
Yeah. And they do a nice job. I click into the ESPN app. I can see all the scores. I can see all the highlights. And I can watch anything that's on ESPN at that moment or previously, like a replay of something.
Yep.
Awesome. All of a sudden they decide, cable subscriptions, not good, losing money, subs are going down, cords are being cut, things are happening. Yes. And they start charging for watching any of the content on their app that isn't currently live on ESPN or ESPN2.
Right.
And they call it ESPN Plus.
Of course.
Which they used to call ESPN3.
Yep.
And then they used to just they rebranded that to just the app, ESPN.
ESPN Lightning. And
now we have ESPN Plus, where we have to pay.
What's the plus?
It's $4.99.
That's the plus.
$4.99 a month is the plus.
Yeah.
And then it unlocks the content that you had about a month and a half ago for free. Is right. I already pay you ESPN. I already pay for your subscription.
So you're saying that, so you didn't actually have ESPN for free before. You had to log in where your cable provider.
Where I already subscribe.
Right. So you pay for the sports premium
ESPN.
package.
Whatever. They're basic cable.
Is ESPN basic cable? No.
Absolutely.
No, basic is not. Like,
ESPN is on the list of channels that if you just got the cheapest cable package ever, you're getting ESPN.
No, because you only get the like local channels. Like the cheapest package ever is like local channels, like five channels.
It's the basic cable.
Yes. Yeah.
Version.
The point is you're paying for it.
I'm already paying them.
Right.
And they understand that they are subsidizing other channels. Like when you have cable and you have hundreds and hundreds of channels.
Oh my God.
Like ESPN's probably the most expensive one. Not counting like HBO, because you're paying for that extra, completely separate. Right. You're actually literally handing over like $12 or $13 a month for that. But ESPN's like bundled. It's part of the bundle, and it's subsidizing, the
HGTV.
Exactly. The one that is a quarter that you don't actually ever watch or care about, but it's like, yeah, you get 300 channels. Who cares? I watched 12 of them.
But I'm going to, take you out of your what annoys Justin. I'm very happy with the way this is going because this is what we've been asking for years.
Yeah, but don't make me pay you for cable then.
Well,
give me the pipe.
Stop paying for cable.
I don't know. See, then I don't know how it works. Because if you don't...
You give them $4 a month and you stop paying them $300 a month or whatever crazy your bill is.
But when you log into these channels through, you have to log in through your cable provider.
Yeah.
I think they look and they see if you actually have a subscription. Like, I don't think you can just have internet. I think you actually have to have television.
No, you could go.
Have you tried that? You're saying no, like with very.
It's
like
like
a very
like
100% certainty.
Hulu doesn't check to see if I have
Hulu's
television.
A separate service that you're paying for.
That's what this is. If I just said, if you just woke up today and I said, hey, there's this thing called ESPN, it has all the sports, and you watch anything, you pay $4.99 a month for it.
I don't think that's what this is.
It is.
I do not. I believe you're paying for the extra stuff.
I don't think so.
I don't think you're getting ESPN, like ESPN live out of the box. Hey, Bird.
Bird.
I don't think that's happening.
I think it is happening.
I'm going to cut my cord at some point, like within the next year. I'm
close.
I'm so done.
Right.
Hulu's my like, I think my avenue to getting there because they have the live TV
and they're all going live. Like you can now get DirecTV. You can get all these cable things. There's like 6 or 7 live TV packages.
YouTube.
My problem has always been, and it's still to this day, is like there's a sport that I have to watch, and I live in the local market, so I can't watch it through other services. But I am concerned that if I cut my cable and I go on Sunday at 1:00 and I go, okay, time to watch that game I really want to watch, and it's like, it's not so good internet, or something's not happening, your streaming service is down, I will lose my mind. So like, to me, it's like, I'll keep the cable until I can prove it. Maybe this year, I'll just do free trials like once a month of like all these different services and watch the games that I want to watch on those services and just see how it works. Like instead of watching it I'll get a free trial to YouTube and a free trial to Hulu Plus.
I'm going to give Hulu a shot.
Hulu Plus.
The Hulu Live, whatever it is, with the cloud DVR and the ability to tack in like Showtime for like $4. That's great.
But you have to do it. So if you do it, and maybe I'll do another channel.
Yeah, you try some other one, and I'll try
you have to on Sunday, instead of going to your cable box and going RCN, give me the Jets.
Me CBS.
You're gonna go Hulu. You give it to me.
Give me CBS,
and then watch like 4 or 5 games. Watch the entire day that way, and we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm just worried it's gonna be like,
give me Red Zone. Got to know it's available.
Yeah,
should be.
We'll see.
Should be able to buy that stuff through the NFL though. See, that's the thing. It's like I should be able to go to the NFL on my own, on my Apple TV, and be like, I want all the things.
You can.
Then I got it.
Sunday ticket, but you can't get local. It's blacked out.
How does Hulu know what local is?
Because it knows where you are. So it's not that way. It's that you're going to get local channels, on CBS, Hulu. On Hulu. You're going to go to NFL if you want to watch all the others.
Like the Red Zone stuff.
Yeah, you just buy that through DirecTV.
Right.
I mean, the Sunday ticket through AT&T. The Sunday ticket through AT&T, you can buy on your Apple TV. It works great. I've been using it for years. It's awesome. But your local games won't be on that.
Well, I got a lot of bandwidth, so
There you go.
I've got the bandwidth.
Yeah.
Not an issue.
We'll see. Speaking of bandwidth, I'm very excited about this. And it's interesting that Omni Group decided to do it. So, I've talked about Omni Group 1,000 times. They're a maker of software on the Mac platform. They make one of my favorite programs called Omnifocus. Well, they just released Omnifocus 3.0, which is their new version for the iOS. First. Crazy.
That is crazy.
They have done a lot. They have put in new features, including multiple tags. So contexts are now tags. You can tag things 6 different ways from sideways. And their app on the iPad, it's a universal app, is great. It's much more, it feels almost like a desktop app on your iPad. Like I've been more and more trying to just use my iPad, go off, to a coffee spot or something and just like, can I use this and really get work done? And more I'm like, wow, between Slack and Docs and email and OmniFocus, I can really get some things done on it. But anyway, OmniFocus 3, if you bought it, since October, you get the free upgrade. So if you bought OmniFocus 2, I think there's a standard and a pro. I think it's $19 and $29. But it's out, and it's great. It's going to then work with OmniFocus 3 on the desktop, which is the big thing. But what's cool is they've built in their ability to, even though they're using, one has more features than the other, it still syncs together and works just fine. So it's kind of neat the way they did that. This thing has different and better features than this thing.
They're a big time developer on the Apple, let's just call it the Apple platform.
Yes.
So I wonder, just a sneak peek at the WWDC stuff.
Yeah.
I wonder if they will utilize that feature set that they were talking about towards the end in the Mac OS.
Which one?
Where you can more easily port like mobile apps to the desktop, where it's just like, let's just focus on the mobile app and it'll
work
the desktop app.
But for them, I actually think that's a lost revenue stream, except for if maybe they just sell it, say, hey, this thing is always going to have more power, but if you want to use this thing here, use it here.
Yeah, use it all over the place.
By the way, that's next year.
Bird doesn't like that idea.
Bird, you are so annoyed.
Bird is like, no, I need my desktop version too.
Anyway,
how dare you suggest that?
OmniFocus 3.0 out for the iOS.
All right, dude, we got it.
Could not live without it. Love it.
We get it.
All right.
We get it.
All right, Bird.
Bird. Read the outro.
The outro is follow us on Twitter, Just Elstein, Jason Matwood, Arkus Inc. Follow us on all the other places, LinkedIn, Google+. You know what I'd really like, though? I'd really like some more reviews. Yeah, how about go to iTunes, Stitcher, whatever. First of all, leave us a review and then tweet at us so we know you did it.
You know what the retort's going to be like?
What?
You want more reviews? Do more podcasts.
I just did one.
All right.
For 300th, maybe we should set a number we want, and then see if we can get it by our 300th episode, which is coming up. Until then, this is Justin Jason saying, enjoy those cloudy birds. No, days.